I mean, we haven't had a scripted intro
Not
since
really, yeah.
it for any of
Just
them, so it doesn't really
welcome to
matter.
Auditory Hallucinations. There you go. Intro.
This week, we're
Are we
talking about
recording?
crazy shit again, like we have for the last 4 times,
Yeah,
because why not?
next week we'll talk about maybe not normal. I won't call it normal. It'll probably be fucking
I
weird.
have an idea for next week, and it's not normal, but it's not like
It's not schizophrenic
it's
like
not
this.
well, it's
It's
actually
not
legitimately it actually
schizophrenic.
has to legitimately deal with schizophrenia.
Oh,
But
cool.
it's like there's been a movie about it, documentaries. It's actually a very popular bit of history. You
Okay.
may have heard of the fox catcher farm.
So this week we're
Interesting.
talking about like the rake, the no deer, and every
The not deer.
millennial's favorite no deer, not deer, whatever. And every millennial's favorite schizophrenic episode, the Slender Man.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a hot take
This
because all
is
of
an
us listened
interesting
to that one.
topic because I did a lot of research for this one. Um and like the history of this stuff goes back pretty far in like internet history.
Yeah.
Cuz like generally these are all internet hoaxes as far as I'm aware. Some of them have some real like ties to folklore and stuff, but like Slenderman has some ties to folklore.
I don't know if any of the ties to folklore with Slenderman have been verified. That's what I kind of got from the stuff research on Slenderman is that even the folklore is like a fabricated folklore and that
So
it's not real.
yeah, that the the document that the guy put out of all the lore and stuff that he wrote out with all the images and stuff for Slenderman.
It's like 190 pages, wasn't it? Something
Yeah,
like
it's a
that.
lot of pages. It's impressive and it's actually really well written. And if you're interested in reading it, I just going and taking a look at it. Taking a
If
look
you ever
at it.
watch Marble Hornets, it's a really good
Yeah, that
creepypasta
also
video.
is amazing. Very very fucking creepy. But
Yeah.
like what I find interesting is not it's loosely based off of or not based off of but loosely similar to some folklore and like Native American folklore. There's I forget what it's called. I didn't, this is the one thing I didn't write down because I figured we wouldn't really go that deep into this, but it's loosely based off of folklore that like there's this like really tall dark figure that stands at the edge of trees and looks at you and just observes. That's kind of how Slenderman behaves in some of
That's
the.
just Bobby. That's just Bobby, man. It's fine. I know him. It's good.
Yeah, you know him well because
Yeah, yeah. I see him in the trees. Come on.
I
I
never met him.
chat with him occasionally.
You nice guy.
Sometimes he Yeah, yeah. Sometimes he stands on the edge of the trees across the road from you, actually, across the road from your house.
What a nice guy.
Yeah,
Watching over
he's
me.
great. Yeah, yeah. He's watching over you.
Um,
Great guy, great guy.
but yeah, this stuff goes back like way back. There's been like I think it's called Ted the Caver. It is like an old internet like creepypasta type like ARG type
Is
thing.
that the one with the like M-shaped cave sort of thing, or is that different?
I didn't get a lot
I
of
don't know if
detail
it's
on
in
this
there,
one
but
because this
Ted the
one's
Cave.
it kind of doesn't really have what a lot to of like what we're gonna talk about. It's just general history of all of it, right? Like there's a website that this guy set up and it was like a spooky story about a cave that this guy went spelunking in and I think he went like insane or got stuck in it or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
People can get mad at me over that if they want because I know that's like a pretty popular thing, but is what it
You're
is.
not recanting my story exactly how I want. I'm gonna make a
um
post on Reddit and bitch about it.
but like that was kind of the beginning of like the ARG stuff or the unfiction, like the analog horror stuff,
Yeah.
right? Which is kind of how we got like these things, you know, like the rake, the Fleshgate, Slenderman, and all that. So that was interesting to read about and listen to some of these videos because I also found out that the Fleshgate uses the same image as the rake for its like a lot of the like the message boards where people write like stories about it and stuff. So that's interesting.
Well, they're very similar, aren't they?
They so the Fleshgate's like a
Flesh gets like in the forest, and the rake is like in the. My bad.
Well, it's interesting. There's
Is in
two versions of the
the
rake,
suburbs.
right? There's the rake that 4chan came up with, um, which I think it was 4chan or a different forum website.
It was 4chan, I believe. Yeah,
Um,
I believe it was
and
big.
that one was actually more similar to what I had mentioned, where like it had some similarities to Slenderman, where it was a dark figure that would stand like in the trees and like watch outside of your house,
Yeah.
right? But it wouldn't it
Well,
would only attack you if it was provoked.
and we can touch on like why that is as well. And it's like the best horror is probably, in my opinion, kind of falls into that uncanny valley region.
Yeah,
And like the Rake and the Slender Man, because they're both humanoids, fall into that uncanny valley.
it creeps me the fuck out, and I know for a fact they're not real. So
Slender Man creeped me out when I was younger at the time when it was happening. Because like this interesting about this too is all lived through and like remember like when these things got big.
yeah,
We all lived through that and like the time. Like I
there's a
remember when those girls killed the guy over Slender Man,
yeah, it was a big
which we'll
part
get.
of our of internet history, to be honest.
Yeah,
Like, and that's a lot of like the beginning of my notes here, like a lot of the stuff I had written down. Like a lot of this stuff, like creepypasta wasn't even a concept yet, right? When it came to like Ted the Caver and like some of these other short stories that you find, um like there we started to like, I guess the internet decided to create their own mythology at a certain point. And that's kind of where it where like the Fleshgate and like stuff like the Rake is kind of where it led to, and Slenderman and stuff.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the creation of modern folklore, or what do we call
Yeah,
it, like urban legend now?
urban
But
legends. Yeah,
it's like widely known that they're fake, but also a lot of people think they're not. Which we'll touch on this later. I think is like there are cases of people seeing things similar to a lot of these things that we'll discuss.
yeah.
Like
That's
the
why I bring up the folklore
the
that
no
it's
deer
loosely
and
attached
shit,
to.
I can see people mistaking for some kind of paranormal shit. I mean, the deer's it's a
Um,
fucking deer. I
yeah,
mean, it can get
a
on a.
deer
I've seen deer
standing
get
on
on a
its hind
timeline
legs.
before.
Yeah,
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 I've seen deers up close in the woods. It's like a deer, not deers, but it's what people are likely seeing is there's two diseases that affect deer that are we can discuss later. But like it's yeah, the not deer is people are seeing something, but they don't know much about deer.
yeah,
it's kind of like mad cow disease. Mad cow disease, except it's for deer.
yeah.
Yeah,
Generally, when these people see this, they're filming them. They're like right next to them, and they're like standing up at their door.
yeah.
So like they probably are diseased, looking for food, or just fucking angry at
Maybe
them
they
because
just want to borrow a little sugar.
yeah,
Like
maybe.
And
their
they
name's
So
and there's the center of their body opens up and there's a massive
which
flailing fleshy tentacles.
I
it's
enjoy that we're
fucking
at the
trippy.
like a different angle of this now, because before we talked about stuff that like could or could not be real, but most of this stuff is definitely not real. Like it was made up on the internet.
You tell me all the video games where you go into the woods looking for pieces of paper and
Um
there's some dude in a suit stalking you is not real?
Unfortunately it's only real in your dreams, Brad.
God damn it, Markiplier lied to me.
You did. Um
Fucker.
but yeah, a lot of the creepypasta stuff got passed around the internet for a while, and like there's different, and there's SCP forums and stuff like that that tie into that. But I think the main thing that we could talk about is tulpa in relation to this.
Yeah, definitely. We're definitely gonna hit the tulpa. We should probably go into what they are first, like
Yeah,
pretty specific, like what like the rig is, and like Slender Man's got a pretty big like lore behind it.
yeah. I
And there's the famous case with Slender Man, which
yeah.
is
I would
true.
recommend anyone listening to go and research and like read up on Slenderman themselves, because it is very well written, and the guy spent, I think it was a guy, spent a lot of time um like writing all
How
this stuff
dare
and putting it
how
together.
dare you assume their gender?
Hey man, hey,
All
be
a
careful.
lot of things.
Well, actually, this was before all that stupid shit, so yeah, it
Mhm.
doesn't matter.
It was
But
Yeah, I mean,
God, that was so fucking long ago. I think I was just graduating.
we were in middle school, maybe elementary school.
Oh shit, that was
late
a
late
long
elementary,
time.
early middle school
Yeah.
for us.
I
Yeah.
can't. I think it was either right after I graduated high school or right when I started going to college. But no, I remember that shit. I remember all the video games and shit. And that's how a bunch of
Yeah.
people got big on Let's Plays was
Oh,
doing
yeah.
that shit.
Yeah.
And
Markiplier
I thought it
was a
was
big one from that.
yeah, I thought a lot of it was stupid. I just don't like jump scares. I hate fucking jump
Yeah,
scares.
I'm terrible with those.
I
I
remember.
remember my 5th grade teacher showed us the car going down the windy road, and then the fucking woman jumps up in front of you. That was in 5th grade. That
Your
scared the
teacher
piss out
showed
of
you
me.
that.
Yeah, he's like, hey, yeah, this is like 5th grade at Halloween. He's like, hey guys, this is kind of cool. Watch this.
That
It's an optical
traumatized
illusion.
me. I forget
Two
who
teachers
showed me
are
that.
two teachers are psychopaths, man. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. A lot of
But
teachers are nuts.
oh yeah, they
I
are.
wonder why people hate
But
teachers now.
I like I remember like being like first hearing about it from a friend in elementary school, and then I think like all this stuff happened like with those girls when we were in middle school.
Yeah.
Like, I think that was when we were in 8th grade.
8th grade,
wasn't
I
it?
think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was when we were in 8th grade.
Yeah, just to describe Slenderman, he's tall, stark white, wears a suit, tendrils kind of come out of him and stuff. He's very like, it's almost eldritch, right? Like it's almost indescribable, right? Like because you look at something like that and you're like, okay, well there's no like defining features of his face, but it's like still terrifying.
It's interesting too because I had like the lore changes depending on where you are and who you hear it from, right? Like on the internet, the lore is the tendrils. I was not on the internet at this time really when like I was in elementary school hearing about the Slender Man, and the tendrils were not a part of the legend. I was told it was a man in a suit with a white like face.
Yeah.
Or like with like no features. I was not. There was no mention of tendrils.
So if you read the document that was like written out, like that's mentioned quite a bit. It's like multiple limbs essentially.
Yeah, I found that out researching it for this show.
Yeah,
I had been under the assumption that it was not like a tendril or anything like that.
It's
a person.
It's really interesting how stuff like that changed too, because that totally could have just been because someone wrote their own thing or copy and pasted something and like on the internet, and someone else read it, or like it was a fan, story or something like that person who told you about it read and stuff, and like didn't detail anything. It could have been the fact that I don't think that he had tentacles in the original 8 pages game.
Yeah.
No, the Japanese had that. I refuse to back down on that.
If
I'm gonna get canceled, I'm gonna get canceled for something good.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Better.
You might as well commit. Moving on from that though, like generally the stuff I've read about it, he's very much like he's an enigma. He steals children and people in general, it seems like. Forces children to do like pretty nasty things, and that's kind of where it plays into the real life crime that was committed over man, what are we we must be, are we 4 for 4? Have we mentioned?
I think we mentioned Epstein every episode. Yeah, Slenderman. The real deep lore actually is that Slenderman is real, and he's an agent of Bill Clinton. He's one of Bill Clinton's top guys.
One of Bill Clinton's top G's.
Yeah, he's one of Bill Clinton's top G's.
Yeah. But
he's also Catholic.
So that case was interesting because I had to do a lot of like watching videos and like reading about that, because I wasn't like fully aware of what the fuck happened when I was younger, because my dad mentioned it, like, that Slenderman thing. Yeah, 2 girls like tried to kill some girl over it, and I'm like, wow, that's fucking crazy. What's for dinner? And I'm like, all right.
I had a little Mandela effect thing too when we were in this when I was doing the research today, actually. when I watched that video that you sent me.
Why? What
And it
happened?
was well, I was under the impression, and I swear, dude, I could have sworn they killed her. I
I
swore that girl was dead. And I think I
I
said that last week when we talked after the show about what we were doing. I
yeah.
think I said, "Oh yeah, they killed a girl. And that girl died." I swore I would have if you asked me on Slender Man about the killing, I would swear to you, I would have sworn to you until right now that yeah, no, they killed someone.
I
She didn't
couldn't
die.
remember, but when I looked it up, it immediately came back to me that because I remember vividly hearing about it a couple years ago again, because someone had mentioned it in a video I was watching or something, um, that the girl who got stabbed crawled up from the area in the park where she got stabbed, like up to the
Yeah.
path to hail a biker, right? But basically, like they plan this whole thing out, these like psycho kids, and they fucking. And I don't mean to talk bad on the mentally ill, but like it's probably psychosis. So psycho in the literal sense.
Well, I mean, they were both committed to institutions. They weren't put in
Yeah,
jail. They were committed to institutions for 40 years apiece,
yeah, but
which can be appealed and then get out if they're cured. But like, yeah,
the,
they're institutionalized.
these kids had this like plan to kill this girl that they were like friends with at a sleepover. Um, it didn't. I guess it fell through a couple times, like during the sleepover and stuff, and it just they ended up in a park during the. I think it was during broad daylight, believe it or not, which is kind of insane. Um, and they stabbed the girl in the park and nearly killed her. Barely missed her heart with one of the stab wounds. Um, and then she asked for help, and they got convicted for assaulting her with a deadly weapon. And sentenced to a mental institution. Pretty dope. Not very dope, actually, at all. But I don't know, man. That's some creepy shit. And they said Slenderman told him to do that.
Man, the youth is so fucked up.
I mean, that's what I would say. But
Everybody who just rolled their eyes. Oh, look at this millennial boomer talking shit about the youth. Nah, there's definitely side effects of being like attached online. Now, if I remember the story correctly, I think these two were bullied a lot, and I don't really
potentially,
I don't really excuse bullying. So there's a difference between a boy bullying a boy and a girl bullying a girl. Girls bullying other girls is fucking
yeah, they're pretty
horrendous.
ruthless.
Like that's
It's
fucking
insane.
horrendous. Like I know boys, I know other males I went to school with who just beat the shit out of each other and became friends.
Yeah,
Women will literally break each other's fucking minds.
yeah,
It's
Well,
the
and
craziest shit in the world.
men bullying each other psychologically often doesn't work, especially because male friends do that to each other.
yeah. I was just say like it's
Male
kind of
friends like poke at each other in the way women do.
Yeah, you know how many times
Um,
I've told both of you to kill yourselves?
you told us
and
that
we
right before
still
we started
haven't done
on
it yet.
air.
Because you're bitches.
Nick, that's what you think, brother.
For those of you who can't see the screen, he just pulled a gun out. He
Well,
thinks he's
you were
hard.
supposed to say that, brother.
It was a Nerf gun. Don't worry.
Yeah, Nerf.
Oh, yeah, it is a
It's
Nerf gun. Whatever.
it's Nerf or nothing.
It's
He's a
Nerf or
hard ass. It's
nothing.
okay.
Yeah. I don't know. You have to wonder it because these girls like came across this. They had to have read the part in the lore where that like there's a part like written in the document that details two little girls. One of them like sacrifice. I think it was sacrificing one of them.
It's it's supposed to be folklore from Romania. It's the original
Yeah.
like the main folk tale, and it's the girls are picking berries in the woods with their mother, and their mother is spoken to by some entity. Slenderman was the entity who tells one of the girls to draw a circle with a knife, and then crush berries in the circle, and they do. And then the one girl is supposed to lie down in that circle,
Hmm.
and then the other girl is told to cut her open,
Yeah.
um, ostensibly for harvesting organs, which is something associated heavily with Slenderman, especially the intestines.
Yeah.
And then the girl refuses to do it and runs home to her father, and her father leaves with an axe and tells her to lock the door. And the father and says, "Don't open the door to anyone except for me." And then her mother shows up at the door, and her mother kicks it in when she won't open it, and I don't know, says something to her, and then Slenderman comes down the chimney like Santa,
Yeah.
fireplace, and wraps
Snatches
her
her
up,
up.
and then she is gone. She's
Yeah.
done. Yeah,
So creepy.
creepy.
But not real. That's it. That's the
No,
weird part. Like,
the
it,
actually is a lot of all these things except for the Not Deer, both Rake and Slenderman have um heavily like big histories, including in like history and folklore and stuff, but they're all fabricated. There's
yeah,
nothing real about them. People generated them and even wrote them in like similar dialect to how like the time would be written.
yeah. Which is
Um,
really cool. It's really creative.
it is,
For
yeah.
horror, I'm always impressed by by things like analog horror and ARGs and stuff like that. And
I'm always impressed by what the autists on 4chan can do.
yeah,
Like they
that
can do a
too.
lot.
Um,
They just don't channel it towards anything productive at all.
yeah. Well,
And it's only the weird boards too, because I go on 4chan quite a bit, and they don't really post that shit on there anymore. That's like a
that was a B thing. I think the rake
yeah.
was
Yeah,
came
now
from
B
B,
is just pornography, I'm pretty sure, mostly.
probably, and gore.
And then yeah, and gore. And then
Uh,
X is like this is the sort of thing you would think comes from X, but like I go on X occasionally, and X is like people claiming these insane things happened, but they're real.
There's like gang stalking and stuff on there, right? Like, isn't that?
Oh, probably. I mean, I think a large portion of the people on like X are schizophrenic, so
That's pretty cool.
yeah.
no, are you
Um,
telling me people that are chronically online are fucked up?
No, 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 never,
um,
never.
the rake. How to describe this? Um, that one is an interesting one because I've seen the image used a couple different times for a couple different like creepy pastas and stuff, like including the Fleshgate, but not limited to that either. I've seen it on other shit. Um, the rake is supposed to be like some kind of like sleep paralysis type demon, like almost like a Sandman, kind of feeds off of your dreams or something like that. Um, in the like the finalized version of the lore, where a lot of the like the creepy pastas are written. And it's like a very gaunt body, like very akin to like how you describe a Wendigo, or how a Wendigo is described occasionally. And
Or a Fleshgate, as you had said earlier.
yeah, or a Fleshgate apparently is how which that's another interesting thing to bring up, like just like kind of as like a little branch off of that, because they use Skinwalker and like Wendigo lore for that. Like it's able to mimic human speech. It transforms into someone that you would like, that you like. The way that its powers work is that it transforms into someone, and like you swear that you know them. You've known them your whole life, and they like show up in your like group when you're walking through the woods. And he tries to pick you off and like and kill you one by one. That's
But
the whole story.
if I'm correct, it's someone that you swear you've known your whole life.
Hmm.
But if you were to really pay attention, you'd notice there was something off.
Yeah,
There was something wrong,
yeah,
which ties in with like demon lore and the fact like like the devil is often portrayed as like a blind man at the crossroads or someone who's lame or something
yeah,
because demons are supposed to be able to assume human form but never perfectly because only God's creation is perfect, and so they always have some sort of physical deformity to them,
yep.
something that's wrong.
There's a detail that's always off. Is generally how the Fleshgate is described, which is interesting. And again, that pulls from even more, like lore, from
And yeah,
different stuff.
yeah, I mean
Um,
like there's a lot of creepy pastas associated with the rake.
Oh yeah,
And
the rake
there's a
isn't
lot
just
of
one thing either. That's the weird part.
yeah. So that's the thing is most of the creepypastas associated with the rake, which is part of the reason why people confused it and thought it was real, is because it doesn't. Most of like the popular creepypastas don't actually conform well to the final form of what B created.
Yeah,
They don't they don't they don't properly exhibit like the tendencies of the rake or its perfect form or anything like that. But they're clearly based off the same thing, which is why some people thought, oh, maybe it's real.
yeah. But in reality, it's just a conflation of like multiple different cultures and like and some made up stuff. A lot of the time, it's interesting for sure.
Well, it's like the whole SCP thing. Like the
Yeah,
original, like 2,000 of them are really good. Like they are really, really, really good, well put together, thought out pieces of fiction. Like if you go on the SCP Wikipedia and you read like the original like 2,000 or whatever, they are very good. It's like it because it was built by a community that actually gave a shit about the universe and the creatures and
yeah,
the phenomena they were creating. That's why a lot of these early things, because these are early, none of these things we're talking about now are modern day. This is all like
no,
12, 15 years ago. And you could tell the difference between these, where they have very well put together backstories, descriptions, abilities, what have you, and then the modern day shit where it's just like jump scares and just
yeah,
still creepy and shit, but it's not necessarily like there's a
It's more thrown
skill.
together.
Well, yes, but there's a skill when you put together something like this, because that's why if you watch movies like um Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or you watch the original Saw, or you watch um I don't know, pick a horror movie that came out before
Blair Witch Project.
2015. Yeah, there's a reason why these things are cult classics and they're well known. It's because they actually have a story in them. There's drama, there's build up,
Yeah,
there's payoff. A lot of this shit nowadays is just like, oh, like if you read any of the modern SCP stuff, it's like, oh, it's a haunted tissue box that makes you kill yourself if you take too many tissues out of it. It's just fucking stupid.
yeah. It gets to a point where it gets like real lazy and stuff. But I think it speaks to the human imagination that we feel the need to make stuff like this up still, and talk about scary stories and like what like and apply like our fears to something that's not real, that and stuff like that, and kind of embody those fears, right? It's pretty cool. It's a really interesting thing, and I think it's when it's good, it's really good, and when it's bad, it's probably like really fucking stupid and like really awfully written. Um, and the handful of these are pretty well written, and you see a rise in like the popularity of like the hypnagogic archive is an ARG thing, like an unfiction thing, like analog horror. Uh, that's really interesting because it's like this fake archive, or not fake. They're real videos and stuff. Like people made them, and I don't know if they're all from the same place, but they're repurposed, if anything, to like tell this story, like and you know, like make this story up and make it very creepy and put a very strange vibe out onto the internet that like people might come across and be like, oh whoa, and they'll do a double take, be like, is this real? And I think that's what people were trying to do with these things. But unfortunately, like most things, uh they just they kind of fall apart when you put them under a microscope. There's a lot of people
Well,
do
yeah.
like the rake, for instance. A lot of people did think that was real. Like there were people out there on TikTok being like, "Oh my god, look at this footage of the rake! Holy crap, it's so scary!" It's like edited footage of like this fucking gaunt thing walking around. Like it was pretty clearly like source filmmaker type shit with like
I mean,
filters and stuff over it.
we've probably all seen that like famous image of like the night vision camera image of the
Yeah,
thing where it's
heavily
like
edited. There's an
the
original.
thing with its like head turned at 180 and its like arms are turned wrong and it's like bent in weird ways.
Yeah, the original image of that is like, I don't know if it was it. I think it was
Source
just a
image, isn't it?
blank. Huh?
It's like source image, isn't it?
I
Like
don't
just like
know.
edited onto it. It's like
Yeah,
a 3D model, like put
yeah.
onto an
It's
image.
like a. I don't know what they edited onto it, but it was just a blank image of like night vision.
Yeah, and then it's
In the woods.
filtered, and then they filter the model to make it look like it blends in with everything.
Yeah, it was a really well done Photoshop. That's how Slenderman started too.
Yeah, there's a
Interestingly.
lot of really well done photoshops for Slenderman.
It's honestly it's artistic as fuck. Like people go really hardcore into this.
It's an aesthetic.
Yeah,
Slenderman is an aesthetic.
which
Slenderman core.
in itself is almost problematic, man.
A
but
little bit.
you know, yeah, the rake is a weird thing. Generally, like it just the story for the rake is a little bit less good than Slenderman. Like, in my opinion,
I don't know that it's less good. Well, yeah, I mean it's less developed.
like less developed. Yeah, that's what I mean.
And
Sorry, the bourbon's fucking hitting
it happens.
my language isn't very complex now.
It's less developed, but it's also I thought you just opened a freaking bottle of bourbon and just started drinking straight out
No,
of
it's
it.
a
Not
water
now,
bottle.
dude. I was like, oh my lord. But no, it was it also didn't catch on as much as the Slenderman did.
Yeah, that's true.
Here's the interesting thing about like the rake and the Fleshgate like idea is that, which kind of ties in what we're going to talk about in a bit, is it's not it's Slenderman. Nobody sees Slenderman like really sees Slenderman.
No,
The
I mean if they
people
do, they're
have people. Yeah, they might be a little out there, but normal people have reported seeing things that approximate to the rake and the Fleshgate.
right.
In like,
Well, that
actually, one of the things that I've heard of, a podcast, I don't remember what episode or anything like that. It was Cryptid Not podcast, but I listened to a lot. In Wayne County, Pennsylvania, somebody saw a thing similar to a Fleshgate or a rake on the side of the road at night while driving their car, and it freaked them out. And people see things like that on the side of the road, typically at night, kind of,
right.
which it doesn't happen often, but that begs the question, like, like these are completely fictional things. We can trace what they're, we can trace it,
You trace them
but
fully.
these aren't fictional like stories people are like embellishing. These are like, yeah, I saw something really weird on the side of the road that disturbed me, and that's that.
Yeah. I mean, like, you could probably explain them in some way. And, you know, you could even explain them away with other folklore and stuff, too.
Mhm.
Especially, if the description of the Wendigo is, like, accurate to some of the accounts of the Algonquin, like, it could be very gaunt. Like, very gaunt version of a corrupted, like, person via cannibalism. Who knows?
That's true. I mean, Wayne County, PA is not a like Algonquin territory. As far
That's
as you
true.
know.
Yeah.
Wayne County is next to it's like probably an hour from where we were.
Well, that is the other thing about this stuff, right? Is like people explain it away with that like that kind of stuff, but like there are these certain like legends are only specific to certain tribes. Like
Yeah.
the Navajo have the Skinwalker, and that's a very specific like thing, and it's not what people think it is either.
And it's not a Wendigo, which people equate them as the same.
Yeah.
They're
So
not.
it's weird. And I mean, it speaks to the imagination of people, you know, like who knows? Maybe they did see something. What
Yeah.
was it? Was it exactly what they think they saw, or was it like a sick animal or something like that too? Like that's always a total possibility, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's very few of these
Were they on
legends
drugs?
right, that all tribes have, or that most tribes have. The only one that I can really think of that most tribes have is Bigfoot. Most tribes have a story of a
Wild man,
hairy
yeah.
wild man living in the woods,
Mm-hmm.
but most don't have a skinwalker or a Wendigo.
No.
Or when
The
you get like
Wachugay up north in Canada, I think, is similar to a Wendigo.
yeah, I think they're considered like analogous,
Yeah.
like entities with different names. But yeah, I think something interesting about the little not off topic, a little bit of change of course. Here's something interesting about the rake is it is a cryptid story, but something that the creepypastas do that is interesting is that the rake is a physical entity that you just see and it's a cryptid in most of the in like
Yeah.
its lore. Most of the creepypastas equate it with like a sleep paralysis demon come alive,
Yeah.
which is interesting in my
Yep.
opinion.
That is interesting, and it's there's some science based in it, right? Because like, it's not cold hard science, but sleep paralysis is a very like real thing. So
It's a very real thing where we come out of REM sleep, uh, and our mind is awake and our body is not.
yeah,
I don't
The
think I've
interesting
ever
thing,
experienced that yet, but
neither
I
have
know
I.
people that have, and they
it's
told me it's
genetic,
like the worst thing possible.
generally
Yeah, I've heard
genetic.
it's typically terrible. Yeah, never
Um,
experienced it. You can accidentally because people who try to induce lucid dreaming sometimes accidentally induce sleep paralysis.
yeah,
But
that's the thing on its own because when you try and induce lucid dreaming, you're doing stuff that you probably shouldn't be doing, like to do that. Like your
yeah,
body needs REM sleep. Like it's supposed to go into REM sleep, and if you tamper with that at all, it throws your body like way off. Like people with
narcolepsy.
narcolepsy and stuff like that, like experience some like really problematic uh issues. Um
Oh yeah,
and what is it?
insomnia.
It's no, it's thing where you can't breathe that well when you
Oh,
It's,
yeah, I should know this. My dad has this. I should know it.
yeah,
it's not PTSD, it's
Yes, yeah, it's not PTSD. Oh, it's a
CPD.
sleep
sleep apnea.
apnea. Yeah,
Sleep
sleep
Yeah.
apnea. My
apnea.
dad's got that.
Like stuff like that will cause you to like go in and out of REM sleep, and honestly, it would make sense because a lot of people used to say that it was like like way back in the day that it was because of diet, but
Yeah.
sleep
Well,
apnea can be caused by like weight issues like obesity and stuff.
here here is the interesting thing though about sleep paralysis is that we know what causes sleep paralysis. We do not know what causes you to leave REM sleep like that. We
No,
don't know why people leave REM sleep when they do.
To
And like consistently.
see aliens changing the connection.
Demons, brother.
generally
And
like
that's what I say, brother.
when things like that happen, like the brain is a really fucking complex instrument. I'm not a neuroscientist, but I took a couple classes on it. I like when you look into like how sleep works and stuff. We hardly know. Like there's a lot of stuff that we don't know about the brain that
How would we
and
know,
how
man?
it
We're not
interacts with
conscious.
sleep. Well, they do sleep studies and stuff, and that's how they figure out if you have apnea and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, that's originally how they figured out what sleep paralysis was too.
Yeah,
They figured out like they knew people that had it frequently. They like studied them when they were sleeping, and when they reported to have it, they said, "Yeah, there was nothing in the room. You were just like asleep,
yeah,
but like your eyes came open and your
yeah.
eyes were moving around, but nothing else was."
Like people with sleep paralysis generally describe like having like this really bad pressure on their chest and not being
Yeah,
able to move, and like sometimes they'll see stuff, which I mean, think about it this way: when you're sleeping and you're like halfway in between REM sleep and not, like you dream in REM sleep. Um,
yeah.
when you're coming out of that, totally possible for you to be like like the way that the chemicals release in your brain and stuff. So that's the
I
scientific explanation
I do
for it.
think there may be like a somewhat supernatural like phenomenon behind it, because I think it's very similar with compounds like dimethyltryptamine, DMT.
DMT.
Like I don't think DMT is analogous to like mushrooms or acid or anything like that because
No.
people on DMT see the same thing when they're tripping together.
Yeah.
And a hallucination's in your mind. It's not you shouldn't be seeing the same thing as people around you. Similar to that, how sleep paralysis obviously it's a solo experience, but there's a couple archetypes of things that people seem to see.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
not like everyone doesn't see their own unique sleep paralysis demon,
No, well,
as they
some
call
people
it.
do. It
People,
depends.
some people do, but a lot of people see the same entity in their room or in their bedroom or on their chest.
Um,
And I think that's indicative of something more like sinister and more than just
could be,
more than just like chemicals interacting in your brain.
could be. It could
Similar
be.
to how DMT, like people seeing the same like elf come out of the forest,
Yeah,
the same machine elf is more indicative of it
Yeah,
being
but a lot of
something
those
more
people that
chemical
claim to see
reaction.
Elvis and shit are also like crazy fucking like commie hippies that
Yeah,
talk
but
about
it's
like seeds in the
it's
means of production and shit.
it's well known though that
what
people
the
who
fuck?
go on like ayahuasca retreats in South America as a group, the group will all see the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, but if you're primed for that environment, I could see that happening, right?
that is the thing, right? Like how easily were they, you know, how
People,
easily are people
I get
suggested
people
to see the
argue
same
the
thing?
shaman guiding them to see the same thing, but I still think it's suspect because a hallucination is unique. A hallucination is something you see in your mind.
Yeah,
It's created by chemicals in your brain.
it's an interesting question to ask. The thing is, we don't know. Like, we don't know what exactly causes that people to see that kind of stuff, which is
No,
really creepy, to be honest, because in that
yeah.
case, it's up in the air. And anything that we
Similarly,
don't know, a lot of the time we explain with folklore, mythology, religion, and stuff like that. Um,
which is why like that like that we don't know. That's one of those like I would never take DMT. Never.
no,
Because I'm not exposing myself to whatever the heck is there
'cause who the
coming out
fuck
of that.
knows? And
Like I'm not exposing
Connor
myself to
just
whatever the
doesn't want
hell
to
is
open up his
freaking.
psyche to the second or
but
the fifth dimension.
I'm
yeah,
already in the fifth dimension, brother, but I don't want to open up the demons taking over my mind.
the the the
So
the way the rake works is like they'll visit you in your sleep, fucking suck your dreams out of your brain or something for a while. Then all of a sudden you'll get visited by it, and then you'll kill yourself.
I mean, I'm lonely
just
enough
go on,
as it
yeah.
is, so that might work out.
Well,
Um,
then you should go on X and see what they have to say about being lonely. They have some They have some
You don't
threads for
have
you
to be
about.
lonely. You could sit there and
No,
take you could sit there and
um,
take CBT oils, and you
no,
could
no.
translucent yourself into like a second
Here's the
reality.
thing with X, dude. X will have like I go on X occasionally for cryptid threads, dude. X is nuts. X is like divination threads, but one of the biggest threads on X is always succubus summoning
Yeah,
threads.
the best ones on there are the lonely men who are trying to
You know,
Yeah,
summon a
there's low
succubus
that
so they can
plays
get
into the next
themselves to
thing that
make
we're
fun
going
of
to
the
talk
sex
about.
posters.
loneliness. I had a lot of that.
Well, tulpamancers and tulpas,
Yeah.
the concept of
Well,
tulpas.
I'll be right back.
But we haven't talked about the not deer yet fully. If we have
well,
any more to cover on that, so
let's pull into the knot here because Brad just left and I'm about to leave
yeah,
too. So let's edit this little section out where we all say we're leaving and then
okay,
talk about the knot deer. I gotta take this.
all right.
I'm mostly through that 2 liters of beer. Or
Jesus
that one
H.
liter of beer.
Damn, bro, that's crazy. They're both gone. Anyway, now I get to tell you about uh subscribing to the channel and hitting the notification bell and following and liking the podcast and all that good stuff. Like, do that. You should do that right now. You should do that. And if we have the Patreon set up, you should subscribe to that immediately. That would be pretty cool of you. You don't have to, but it'd be pretty neat. Anyway, I
That's good.
but now we are, because now we're actually talking about it.
Well, yeah, we're talking about
The not deer.
yeah, the knot deer. So yeah, so there's two like the knot deer kind of originates on TikTok as far as I can tell. It's a very new phenomenon, but
I
it's
don't.
basically people started saying like this is a staple of Appalachian folklore going back centuries.
Then
And
everyone
I'm
in
sorry I'm
Appalachia is
from the
just like,
north and I say Appalachian, but I say Appalachian. My bad. But
Well, you say water wrong too, so I gotta beat you over the
we're
head with a brick.
I'm gonna bury you in water till you
You're not
drown.
gonna do fucking shit, all right? Chill out.
Okay. But no, so the knot okay. Yeah, but so
Okay.
like the knot deer, it's they're saying like, oh, it's like Appalachian folklore or Appalachian, like I say it both ways. Who cares? Appalachian folklore. What do you call it? And it goes back centuries, people have been seeing them.
Right.
Now I found an interesting Reddit thread on this. And a bunch of people from Appalachia, or who claim to be from Appalachia, they chime in and say, "Hey, I've never heard of this. This is not Appalachian folklore. You're completely wrong," and which I tend to agree with. I had never heard of it in the cryptid space before 7 months ago to a year ago, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how long ago it was, but it was relatively recently. Um, and people like show videos of these deer acting weird with their eyes that are like facing more forwards, allegedly, like your
Yeah.
predators do. But really, their eyes aren't facing more forwards. Their eyes are bulging out of their heads.
Right.
Is
They
what makes them look like that, and it's because there's two diseases that basically make deer look weird and act weird. Uh, there's chronic wasting disease, which is relatively rare. Started in the it's not rare, but it's not like the whole deer population's affecting with it because if it was, there would be no like deer left because chronic wasting disease, there's no survival rate. They just die, and it's a neurological disease caused by an infected prion, which messes with the deer's head. And I think it bores holes in its brain and makes it act weird. And but then the more likely one is epizootic hemorrhagic disease, I believe, EHD,
mm,
which is also called blue tongue, I'm pretty sure, and it causes the deer's tongue to swell up and go blue, making their mouth hang really far open.
right. Like the
Similar to how a lot
pictures
of
I've
people with the
seen.
knot deer incident, with people claim knot deer's mouths hang open and salivate a lot,
Yeah.
and they have different teeth, which there's no the EHG doesn't cause different teeth, but their tongue goes blue, which makes it look like it's a weird tendril coming
Usually
out of
you
their
just
mouth.
don't see deer teeth. So
No,
it could just be that people are like, man, those are weird looking teeth because they don't
it
fucking see them
much
usually.
much like chronic wasting disease, EHD also causes them to lose all fear of humans.
Yeah, so they'll
So
like walk right up to them,
they'll walk right up to you.
and then all of a
It
sudden they'll.
messes them up. They look very like messed up. Um, I believe they start having like lesions and stuff that are like and like open. I believe they start bleeding from like their like eyes and their ears occasionally too.
God,
Right.
it sounds like a
They
fucking
might,
plague deer from WoW.
yeah. So they might have like blood on their face, which makes it look like they just consumed something.
Yeah. No.
People claim to have seen deer eating meat, which deer do. Mostly
Deer
in
do.
winter when food is scarce, I mean, meat still gives them nutrients. They'll eat meat if they have to.
I
They
mean,
eat
humans will eat other humans if absolutely necessary. You know what?
Yeah, that
We
plays into
touched
the
on this
whole Wendigo
earlier.
thing.
We touched on this earlier, but the actual cannibalistic side effects that humans go through when they eat another person is fucking crazy.
hmm
Like your mind knows it's wrong, but your stomach's like, fuck it, we gotta do this.
Yeah,
And then you go into like survivor's guilt mode and all this other neurological shit because it's like you're not supposed to be doing this.
and that could be the reason that the legends of like Wendigos exist, right? Because these people go like somewhat insane because they just
That
had to
is
consume people and it
well. I mean,
affected them mentally, right?
that's the most common thought. And I mean, like Wendigo psychosis is a legitimate
Yeah,
psychological disorder where people have an unabating craving for meat, for human
yeah.
meat. But
What's the
yeah.
guy's name? Not to fuck. I know the families don't like people talking about, but the Jeffrey Dahmer case where he was eating people and stuff. Very
Well, I don't care if the families don't want us talking about it. Netflix released a show about it,
yeah, true.
so if Netflix can talk about it, so can we.
They're very bothered by it, but yeah,
They are, yeah.
it's people in
That
that.
was a weird that was a weird sexual thing, though. I think, wasn't it?
I have no clue. We could talk
I don't
about
think
that
because
kind of
the
stuff for
the
another
Wendigo
episode.
psychosis is not a sexual thing. It's just
No, it's just
it's
a
just a
craving.
uncanny craving for meat, human
Yeah,
meat. But it's like the deer like eating meat, like that's not out of the ordinary.
no, it's not
These
a.
diseases explain the not deer perfectly. Really, what it shows me is or it speaks like what speaks to me here is that like I think a lot, especially TikTokers, more like technologically savvy people like that, like are probably more likely to be from suburban or urban areas that don't
Yeah.
really have a lot of deer. And I know, like, I used to work at a state park in Pennsylvania, in Western Pennsylvania, and I know it's a very big state park, and we had a lot of people come up from Pittsburgh, people that knew nothing about the woods, knew nothing about animals, and knew nothing about, like, if they'd seen a deer, they'd be like, "Oh, look, a deer! That's amazing!" I'm like, "I see these in my yard every day."
Say they walk through my yard
They
regularly.
walk through my
They
yard.
get
I'm like,
hit
I
in front
almost
of
hit
my
them in
house
my
regularly
car.
too.
Like, I almost hit these things in my car constantly.
Yeah.
But
I know people who have plowed absolutely
yeah,
straight through them.
yeah, and it's you know, yeah, it's like these people just don't understand that deer get disease like anyone else does, and
No, yeah.
it
Uh,
just looks like a cryptid, I guess, to
uh,
them.
this,
EHD, by the way, also has a 10% survival rate for deer. So
yeah.
if you see a deer with it, it might be fine. It might survive.
10% is not a lot.
It's not very high, but
Dude, it's lower
that's
than
how
never mind.
populations stay down. Usually,
Yeah,
is hunting and stuff like that. It's a natural way for
yeah, it's like yeah,
overpopulation to like
it's one
not
way. Yeah,
happen. But it like this
I
is
know what they. I know what this actually is. This is what we perceive as crazy deers are actually aliens because we keep thinking aliens
maybe
are supposed to look like little green men or gray dudes. No, fucking aliens are deer.
and you
maybe
say you're
man.
not the schizophrenic one.
I'm not the schizophrenic one. I'm the intelligent one.
Well, I'm definitely
IQ
not.
test would beg to differ.
But
Nick is our overlord.
I'm settled down there.
You're the only one that can
There's this
operate with
running
a ground
joke that
ball.
I have 8 intelligence, which is below average. D&D.
8 intelligence is below average. Yeah.
So
8
Well, average
intelligence
is
is
10,
like,
right?
yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like not even alive intelligence. Like
8 intelligence is like you cannot speak English clearly or
you
common.
can't speak at all.
I
Oh, I
mean,
gotta tell you a story about not speaking English clearly after the podcast. It's a very
in
fascinating story.
Baldur's Gate you can. I have 8 intelligence in Baldur's Gate. You can speak. But that may just be because you have to play the game.
So you couldn't play the game if you couldn't speak.
Yeah. I don't know what the rules are in 5e for that, but yeah, I mean it
God's
could
like,
be.
Look,
God's like, I'll give
I
you
run
this
into
one.
people. I run into people in Hell at Loose all the time that have sub
You-
8 intelligence and can't speak English.
Those might
Oftentimes
just
they're
be
the freaking
foreign people.
commander. Oftentimes they're the commander,
Yeah.
which doesn't work well.
Those just might be French people on US servers for some reason.
Oui,
You run
oui,
into a lot of
baguette.
random friends.
Oh shit.
Wee
Um
wee. Back
I think this just speaks to like how little like mythology we have now, right? And like and how people like attach like meaning to certain things, right?
Well, we don't necessarily need mythology anymore because we
don't.
we went from explaining natural phenomena by having gods and goddesses and jealousy and Titanic fights to it's summer because the planet is tilted this far away from the sun. We have hurricanes because this tropical depression hit this warm body of water and sucked up the energy and created a hurricane. We have scientific processes now that explain this shit. We don't really need
Well,
mythology anymore.
There's like a
I
greater
disagree entirely, actually.
sociological and like
Well, yeah,
community
I
based
think a
effect
lot
that
of
it has on people, right? So
I think a lot of people still use elements of mythology to make sense of their world because obviously nobody has the answer for everything. But like,
right. I mean a good scientist would say
Well,
that they don't
I
have the
think
answer for
people.
everything.
I think people need mythology and need like I personally believe that religion is an inborn thing in every single person, regardless of whether you call yourself an atheist or an agnostic or a religious person or not. And that like mythology, like traditionally mythology springs from religion. And
Mhm.
that like people need mythology to function properly. And they need religion to function properly. And
Yeah.
that people without it will find their own sort of mythology or sort of religion. Like you see a lot of people who like physics is their mythology. There's a lot of things in physics that we don't understand. We believe they potentially work, and that's why they work, but we don't understand how they work. But people latch onto that like it is a religious code.
Yeah.
And
I
like
think
but I think people that like can't that don't have the IQ to understand that need a mythology. And that's not like a bash or like unintelligent
no,
people.
it's
Like
not a
I
joke.
can't understand that or anything like that. Or like physics. Like I didn't study physics. There's a reason I
I
didn't
took
study physics.
calculus. It was like way over my head, man.
I
Uh,
dropped out of calculus.
yeah,
um,
fucking
but but I forgot how to do math in 4
Which,
years.
like, people
but,
might hear that and be like, okay, that makes sense. That's why they're podcasting and talking about fucking schizophrenic shit on the internet.
That's why they can't hold down real jobs.
I have a never mind. I have a kind of real job. It's real. You know, I do things, but
it's real, all right.
but like people need some sort of mythology, and that's kind of probably part of like the internet provides mythology. And a lot of that mythology is like stuff like this, and then
Yeah.
other parts of that mythology are like, I don't know, Q.
And you see stuff,
You know?
yeah.
You know?
This might be a fucking hack job of an edit for this episode.
We can mention the letter Q is something I can mention. It's just a letter in the alphabet, man.
Yeah, just briefly, and we'll move on from that now.
Comes right before the letter R.
Yep.
Santa Queen.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people like use this to explain the world and like maybe attain some sort of meaning. Maybe attribute like stuff like their fears to stuff like to something so that they can kind of cope with it, right? Because that's a lot of what mythology was in a way too, for people, right? It's not just like the Greek and Roman mythology or like like world religions and stuff, right? It's like smaller mythology and like tribes and stuff like that, like the natives. They had their rituals and stuff that were important for like becoming like men in their society or women, you know. So it's an
We should
interesting
go back
thing.
to cutting out people's hearts and throwing the bodies into volcanoes to appease the agricultural gods.
Listen, I'm not one.
That's a really interesting take that I have a very hot take on about psychedelics, and I'll very, very briefly say that, even though it's somewhat off topic, because I really want to say it.
Okay.
Be wary of like we say like we're a culture as a culture. A lot of people say like we should embrace psychedelics because
I'm
net
good.
positive. But like the only people who've ever embraced psychedelics as a culture did end up cutting out thousands of people's hearts and throwing them off pyramids.
Yeah.
So I think that should be a cautionary tale that like, well, maybe you can use psychedelics every once in a while if
You
you
just gotta take
want.
the right
I don't.
psychedelics.
You can definitely
But,
use them to treat mental illness, which
yeah,
has been shown.
microdosing. But embracing psychedelics might lead you to throwing things off
Embracing them
pyramids,
totally,
particularly human organs.
probably not a good idea.
The elves might tell you to do horrific things. Yeah,
And just plays right back into the mythology thing because they thought they were appeasing gods, but it could have that could have just been 100% like just delusions.
well, I would say it's I don't know if I'd say delusions, but I'd say they weren't appeasing gods.
All right,
They
well,
may have been
fair
appeasing
enough.
some other sort of entity, but I
Yeah.
don't know if it was a god, brother. But yeah, where the hell were we?
We were just kind of talking generally about how the internet like
Noctier
makes
and
these things
internet.
up, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes these things up, and like all these things we've given really good like these are like three like somewhat relevant and like good examples of the internet creating a quote unquote cryptid.
Yeah.
Um which like I personally like as someone who likes to research cryptids and would like to get deeper
No,
into
it's not like the
researching
first 5
cryptids.
episodes of this fucking podcast haven't been about cryptids.
The first one wasn't. The first one was about Antarctica.
Okay, 4.
Yeah. That one
Yeah.
was like
This is
conspiratorial
episode
almost.
4.
We could do a missing 411 episode.
Dude, I'll go deep on that. I'll go real deep. No, but like as someone who enjoys like researching cryptids, wants to get deeper into like I don't particularly like cryptids being made up and taken seriously. Like obviously I don't mind the Rake or Slender Man as they're clearly um like creepy pastas. But something like the Not Deer, like people are like trying to say it's real, which just delegitimizes like the cryptozoological community more.
Yeah.
Um
It's already pretty like delegitimized because
delegitimized.
people don't like to open their mind to stuff like this. I'm not like sitting here 100% saying like I believe in like any of this stuff, but like if you don't open your mind to stuff like this and like research it and look into it and see what's possible and like if any of this stuff could actually exist and what reasoning there could be for it existing, like you're leaving a lot of questions up in the air that like I'm not comfortable with leaving. Like, I want to know if there's like wild men running around the fucking woods, man. You know?
So we
Part
have a
of the
Second Amendment
reason
in this
that
country.
it's true. Part
Yeah.
of the reason that we like are so against like investigating these things and people scoff at is because it's not seen as a part of mainstream science because it's not. And one of the like I would say one of the consequences of like the enlightenment and the scientific revolution is that we have left the world we used to inhabit. Like for example, like if you ever studied the Puritans of New England, they lived in what's been called by scholars the world of wonders or a world of wonders, where everything around them was um not as we would see it. They lived in a world where there were demons in the woods, where there were odd signs in the sky,
Yeah.
where things that are supernatural happened on a daily basis. We live in a world that is materialist. We live in a world where matter is the end all be all. Anything beyond matter is no longer real. Anything that is beyond provable by science cannot be real. The scientific method reigns supreme. And that makes it so that a lot of these things, which we basically can't prove by the scientific method, are just not, they're just not possible for the
Yeah.
majority of people.
Which, I mean, if you ask a caveman before fire discovered, if like about fire, if they could speak English clearly and explain this, right? They would not be able to tell you what the fuck it is. Like there's no like easy to explain reason for someone with that lack of information, like how fire comes to be, right? Now
Well,
we
it's like
know.
if you go back. It's like if you go back to 1850 and show somebody a cell phone, they're gonna
Yeah.
burn you. They're gonna fucking blow your brains out because it's witchcraft.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
But
Like,
it's all about context, right? Like nowadays, a lot of people, if a UFO landed in Washington D.C. and it did all sorts of alien shit, a lot of people be like, "Oh yeah, it's just alien shit. We don't understand it. It'd be like magic." But if you did it 400 years ago, where nobody had any context to the possibilities that could be done with science and materials and technology, it'd be witchcraft. It's timing.
If you tell someone about a UFO abduction from 400 years ago in Ireland or England, they would tell you, "Oh yeah, you were taken by the
Yeah, a
fairies.
fairy or something grab
yeah.
you.
You were taken by the fairies." Which
Right.
to me also like shows like there's a continuity in time with a lot of these things
Yeah,
that
these
occur.
things have happened
But
and will continue to
this
happen.
continuity is ultimately shaped by our worldview, and we live in a scientific worldview. We live in a materialist worldview. The people of the past lived in a supernatural worldview,
Yeah.
where saints and angels and demons walked the earth, and miracles occurred. And that still happens in some parts of the world today, and even in the West, in America. I know somebody who has a guy with PhD actually who he's Eastern Orthodox, and he has seen a crying icon of Mary,
Oh.
and I can't explain that. And they took tissue, they took a tissue, and they absorbed the stuff that was crying, and they tested and it smelled like frankincense. And they had a lab test it, and it was frankincense. It was the postcard of the icon on the wall was crying frankincense. I can't explain why that icon was crying frankincense. Nobody can explain why that
Yeah.
icon cried frankincense. They were not putting frankincense on it. People were standing there watching it cry with the priests in like wonder, like what is happening.
Yeah. There's
But
this.
that's something we can't explain that happens.
Yeah. Plays into that. There's a story of I think it might be a like Indian like god, like a statue of it or something. They'd hold a spoon of milk up to its nose, and the milk would disappear. And they thought that like the god was like drinking the milk. Turns out there's like some like weird explanation of like how fucking there was like a small vacuum in the thing because there's like a hole in the trunk and everything, and it was
Yeah.
like sucking the milk up, right? Like how you would do with a straw.
Mhm.
Um, right, stuff like that. Like they were convinced that like this god was just drinking the milk that they were holding up. And of course, people tried to feed it like beer and liquor and stuff. Because why wouldn't you?
Legends.
Get the god
Like
drunk.
that's the thing. There are things like that where it's fully explainable, like
Yeah,
that. And then there are things like the icon crying
yeah.
frankincense, a
And
tree
then
that
there's
grows in, I believe, Africa and the Middle East. An icon is not going to cry processed frankincense in the middle of Western
No.
Pennsylvania on a concrete wall. It's not going to do it, but it did, and I just question why it did that. Because I'm not like I
See,
don't
that's
necessarily think
kind of
it's like
shit I'd
weird.
have to see before I start believing anything like that. Because there's just too
See this.
many.
I
There's
didn't
too
see
many
it, but
questions.
the guy that I know that saw it, like I had him as a professor like 3 or 4 times. I trust him. I trust
Well,
that he's
yeah.
not
See,
lying to me.
you trust their word. I don't. I don't really trust anybody's word on things until I either have
Yeah.
evidence or I see it.
Yep. And I had another professor who's like, to me, the unexplained, very religious guy. I went to a Christian school, very religious guy. No explanation for it. He's like, yeah, me and my friend went into his office hours, asked him about Bosnian pyramids because we were being schizo, right?
Oh,
And
we
he's
we
like, yeah,
talked about this
not real.
before.
And
Yeah.
like, I'm not convinced he's correct. They're not real, but like, I respect him a lot.
I keep getting
But
videos
he
about
got
Bosnian pyramids now on TikTok.
got the vibe that we were interested in these weird things. He's like, like something strange happened to me one time. I'm gonna tell you guys about it. I'm like,
There's
all
one
right,
time at
doctor.
band camp.
No, no, no. And he was saying, is like, I like to sit with my daughter in the backyard, my young daughter, and lie on the trampoline, look at the stars, and point at the constellations. And he's like, and we were out there one time, and these 3 slow-moving, low black triangles just obscured the view of the sky and just kept going. And he's like, and I don't know what that was. And I was like, oh, black triangle. It's
Stealth
like a
aircraft,
common.
probably.
No, no, no. Slow moving. Like, and he described them as like the size of like football fields. And I was like, that's like the black triangles, like that is a common like UFO. And I said, like, doctor, like I think you have seen like one of the more common types of UFOs seen in the US. It's like that's very odd. Very odd.
Well,
And like these are people that like are not like you wouldn't call them rationalists because they are like very religious people.
yeah.
He was a Presbyterian, but like these are like people that would like they're committed to like academia and committed to exploring like their particular fields objectively and not like falling prey to like dogma or bias. They're committed to finding the truth about things, and they've both seen things they cannot explain, and that like captivated them for a little bit and said like I don't know what that is.
I don't know.
But most people like when they see those things like they'll write them off and say I don't know what it was, but I can't be bothered because it disrupts my normal life.
I mean, you look at it. I mean, what really could you do about it? You look at it like you think to yourself, "Oh, that could be experimental aircraft, aliens, something other like paranormal." Then you're like,
And
"Well,
like we can't like throw the stone at them because we've both you and me both saw had a
yeah,
very odd experience in the woods, and then we saw something very odd that night. And what do we do about it? We didn't do anything about it. We said that's
yeah."
weird, man.
Like
Let's go back to like hiking and like just like messing
you know,
around.
I mean, to be honest, right? When you see stuff like that, really, what are you gonna do about it? Because as long
Not
as it doesn't fucking kill you,
like that's cool. Like that's I'm glad I
it's
saw that.
yeah,
I
it's
guess like it didn't
interesting.
traumatize me. I'm glad
It
that it
it
happened.
it adds some mystery to the world that we're otherwise lacking nowadays because
Yeah.
everything can be so easily explained that wasn't before. And I think
And that's probably why people are really into this like
yeah,
cryptozoology is because people like I said, people need religion and mythology. People lack mystery in the world. Like the world is not a land of mystery, but there's those people that need that mystery and they'll seek it out.
yeah.
They won't decide to drown themselves in reality. They'll just decide to seek it
Some
out
of those
in what's
people
beyond.
will get into
Some
the
of those
next
people
topic. Some of those people get into tulpamancy because they seek out that interesting mystical part of life.
the two of you two of you started this. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
No, you can have your talk without me interjecting about demons and stuff.
So, Brad, did you look up anything about tulpas?
Not really. No.
So we'll talk about this. There was that video I sent in, which was really funny, and I forget the guy's YouTube channel, but he did a video highlighting this Reddit page that is r/tulpamancy, I think, or
Mhm.
/tulpas. And it truly is like it reads like self-induced schizophrenia, and you can read into it on the there's a good blurb on the Wikipedia page about it if you want to quick look up. But let me flip to my notes here. Generally, it's a I forget, where is it? It has to do with like theosophy and mysticism and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a very paranormal thing where you focus on something so hard that it becomes real, whether it be like a different like a being, like a person, or like a different fucking like version of
That's just
yourself.
like manifestation, ain't it?
In a way, yeah. It plays into that, but this has its own like thoughts and feelings, right?
Okay.
And actions and stuff.
So it's like a voodoo thing?
Let me pull up. I forget what exactly what culture it comes from. Yes, it is a seems to be a Buddhist thing in Tibetan manifestation
Okay.
type deal, yeah. But yeah, it's like focusing on something, and you create like a thought form of something, and it becomes its own like being, right?
Okay.
So a lot of people think that like they can do this. They call themselves tulpamancers, and they make like their own version of themselves, like, or they make it's almost like an imaginary friend is the easiest way to describe it, except it's to them it's not imaginary, right? To them
So this is
it's a
like
very real
this is
thing.
this is like having like an AI girlfriend.
Yeah, kind of.
What are we on here? AI girlfriends, I heard.
AI
I
girlfriend.
hear
No.
gunshots in the distance right now.
It's fireworks. It's yeah, they're real close to me. I think it's on the lake. I think it's some of my neighbors. At least I hope they're fireworks.
Sounds
I
like
know I
it's
went to let my dog outside, and my dog like ran
yeah,
back in because he
my
heard the
dogs just
shots.
started freaking out.
Yeah, so did mine.
Yeah, I mean,
Where the hood, where the hood, where the hood
it's
at?
it's funny
I'm
because
here.
it's mentioned, like thought forms are mentioned in like a couple different things. It's not just like the Buddhist like you know, finding enlightenment type stuff where you're trying to you know, focus so much on a thought form of yourself that is like in at like spiritual enlightenment and stuff, and like become it, right? Like that's kind of where like the old stuff came from. But there's like a bunch of occult shit that like plays into like thought forms and stuff, which I mean plays into the fact that it could be demons.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
and
sir.
that's what, because it's in the Book of the Dead.
Mhm.
The Slenderman has been described by some people as a tulpa effect, and that's on the Wikipedia page about it. Um, which is interesting. So, but yeah, people on this subreddit, they make their own like little imaginary friends, and they like treat them as like very real people, and it reads like schizophrenia. Not exactly schizophrenia though. I think what do they call it?
I think it's multiple personalities, isn't it?
Yeah, multiple personality disorder might play into it. There's
Because a
also
lot of them believe like they like let them take control of
something
their
called
body.
RS, which is pretty closely related with it, where you're like it's basically like a self hypnosis reality like shifting thing. It's like people use it as like a means to escape like a current reality, right? Like it's probably pretty commonplace in like PTSD, like and stuff like that. It's and people who are hallucination prone people often end up like dabbling in this stuff and like participating in like the Reddit and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
it's weird.
I'm of the opinion that it's probably demonic in origin,
It definitely
especially
can be.
since especially since what do you call, like, a lot of the people, like, sorry, I just got a text message that was important.
I will say a common thread between all this is 4chan,
Yeah,
because
for
Yeah.
X
What?
has a lot of this.
his communities popped up on 4chan about like
A bunch of fucking
Well,
crazy, chronically aligned people decided to
tulpas.
make shit like this.
the succubus summoning thing on 4chan that we were joked about earlier, that is related to tulpas.
Yeah, yeah, it
Um,
is.
yeah. Now the interesting thing is, like, the tulpamancy thing that was actually new to me. The tulpas I knew about, probably influenced by you and me watching Supernatural for too
Yeah.
long, was
Well,
the idea
this is
that
the other thing that
something that
it
yeah,
plays
something
into.
that is in, like, the common psyche for long enough can become real. So not that people are intentionally summoning it, but that people believe it's real long enough, and that
Yeah,
people have enough of, like, a psychic impact can create it and make it real.
yeah.
Like things like the Rake or the Enderman.
The
Not Enderman.
actual
The Enderman. Slenderman. The Slenderman.
the
But
actual concept is just a materialized thought form.
yeah. My only issue with that sort of thing though too is, like, what else would be real that, like, as I accidentally just said Enderman, like, the amount of kids that play, like, Minecraft and creepers would be rolling around neighborhoods and
Right,
stuff, blowing things up.
right.
Like, it wouldn't just be like Slender Man.
Well, I mean, yeah, to play into that, right? Like with the when it mentions thought forms and stuff on here, it talks about I mentioned this earlier, the Tibetan Book of the Dead.
Yes, sir.
It's you got William Walker Atkinson mentioning it in a book, The Human Aura, where he describes thought forms and ethereal objects and auras and all that, right? Which plays into the whole manifestation thing for a lot of people, which is I find that interesting that people are so like into that like kind of new age stuff now,
Yeah.
and there's like whole communities like surrounding this kind of stuff. Some of
Once
them
again,
just trying to live out their My Little Pony fantasies because they're all fucking weird.
that's the disturbing one that I found, was that a lot of it is associated with My Little Pony.
Yeah, unfortunately so.
But once again, the New Age thing you talk about, like, that's people reaching for spirituality and religion and stuff
Yeah,
in a world that's not necessarily friendly to it, or that
it's
doesn't necessarily, like, is not definitely not necessarily friendly to institutional religion.
yeah.
But like, the tulpamancy of today is the Goetia of yesterday, the summoning of demons, which happens today as well. I
Yeah,
listened to a
people
Yeah,
do.
but
podcast
today
recently
trying to
about
fuck them.
I did some research onto
sometimes,
this
but I
because
listened to a podcast recently about people that are, like, different. There's different. I found out there's different, like, magical orders in this country, and,
really
like, magic, yeah, like societies of wizards and stuff, and, like,
interesting.
there's there's, like, schools and stuff that they go to, and so they're made more like a camp, but,
Oh
like,
my god,
and
it's
you
Harry
can, like,
Potter!
no, but, like, you can, like, ascend in, like, different, like, levels and orders, like in the Freemasons,
Oh, this
and
just
become,
sounds like
like,
a
different
multi-level
ranks of
marketing
wizards.
scheme. Like,
No,
Yeah,
it's
dude, if
not
you get
like
enough
there's no,
people
like,
into our if
money.
you get enough
There's
people into our club, we'll make you a
there's
grand
no,
wizard.
there's no money involved or
yeah.
anything that I know
Well,
of.
that's
It's
how the
like
Illuminati started. Was like
they
kind of a
suggest,
scam to take over like government. Apparently, I looked into that. It's really
well, I
funny.
mean, I think it might be working quite well.
No, like the
But
OG Illuminati, which failed by the
yeah,
way. The guy
yeah,
and the guy who originally started it delegated and said, "Oh, there is no higher order. You make it up." To like his
yeah.
like
But
star pupil, which is really
the
funny.
like, a lot of these people, like, they'll buy books and they'll do, like, lesser banishing rituals, greater banishing rituals, summoning rituals, and stuff like that, using, like, the pentagram as their main, like, focus,
Yeah.
and candles and stuff like that. And, like, that's very interesting to me, but, like, I don't, like, I'll never engage with that because I think it's demonic. But,
So
like,
I've
I
read a
think it's
lot about it,
not good.
about that stuff. I've read about like the grimoires and stuff that they use for this stuff
Yeah,
and like what's contained in them, right? Like and I read about like some demonology stuff recently and watched some videos on it. And what I find interesting is the common thread is they're all grimoires. They're all written around the same time. It seems like where it's like the 1400s and stuff, like
yeah,
medieval
14 to 1600s, I think, is the
era.
sweet spot. Yeah,
Yeah,
late medieval to early modern, or
where it
Renaissance to
was
early modern, really.
commonplace apparently to practice like black magic and stuff and all that because paganism was still well and alive.
Yeah. Well, no, paganism was not still well alive. Paganism died in Europe in the 1100s in Lithuania with the final crusade against pagan Europe.
Might
But
be.
folk tradition was alive and
Yeah,
well.
I get the two mixed up.
Specifically like folk witchcraft traditions, which people like conceptualize actually as meeting with the devil and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
I read an interesting thing recently about that, where it's actually suggested that they would like a lot of these witches would, when they would fly out on their like brooms or whatever to like meet Satan in like the woods and with their coven,
yeah.
would they would get in like a pot or something like that, or like their bed, and they would rub a balm on them, consisting of things like henbane, like wolfsbane,
But
things
yeah,
like
we had
that.
mentioned this before. Yeah,
Yeah, those things are powerful disassociatives in certain doses. And priests would come and look at them while they're doing this stuff, and it's like, no, you didn't leave your bed. You were
yeah.
like
You had
dissociated.
an out of
And the
body
important thing is like you
experience.
had an out of body experience and you didn't realize that like you were not, that it was a drug experience.
Yeah.
Which like begs the question, like, is it entirely a drug experience or is there something more like esoteric to
Well,
it?
so this is interesting because in the now that you mention this in the book, "Touch Me Not," I think is what it's called. I think it's a grimoire. Uh, there I forget. I think it might be that one, but it's an old book. You could for some reason you could just buy these on Amazon. By the way, so are they really like? I feel like
The reprints.
you know, it's kind of nuts how readily available these things are.
Yeah.
These days.
Classical publishers, you know.
Um, but it details how to summon the literal devil. I'm pretty sure. Um, and that could be a different one. But it also details how to summon a demon for treasure hunting, I think. Because
Interesting.
that was pretty commonplace. I don't know if you knew about that. Demonic treasure hunting was like a very real thing. We should do an episode on that because that's really
Sounds
fun.
like sounds like a Diablo 4 mechanic.
It does, and it's interesting because you also like treasure hunting in general was apparently pretty commonplace, and you needed a treasure hunting license back in the day to like do it, like dig shit up for the king. Like you'd get like contractor to do it, but
Mhm.
um they detailed how you summon this is you like take a fuck ton of like I think it was like DMT or something really like very strong hallucinogenics, and then
Yeah.
looking at like horrid images in the book, and
That's
like
terrible.
like flipping through it until
Until
like
you
you're
had a
all the
psychotic break and you would hear its
basically
voice in your
yeah. And, until you had a full, it was basically inducing like paranoid schizophrenia, which is
It's insane.
awesome. Just
I don't know if
so
it's
sick.
awesome, but like
It's you know
it's sick. It's sick and twisted, man.
um
I love stuff that's sick and twisted.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
there's stuff like that detailed in those books, which is really interesting. There's also like long lists of demons to summon and stuff because you need to know their names and rank and everything to summon them. Really interesting
yes, sir.
stuff. I don't see it as a problem to actually research this stuff because the more you look into it, the stronger your faith gets for sure, and
I mean,
the
academic
stuff you
knowledge isn't
know,
terrible.
you'll know the stuff to avoid.
Yeah. Having an academic knowledge isn't terrible. I would never like research these things like you do, just because I'm of the belief that it's not.
Well, I know God will protect me.
I think that's good that you know that. I don't want to
God
open
made
myself up
Smith
to
and
these things.
Wesson.
Did he? I thought that was Smith and Wesson that made Smith and Wesson.
Daniel Colt made
You know what
everybody
they
equal.
say, bro? Yeah, I said, you know what they
Daniel.
say, brother? They say that God made man, Samuel Colt made man equal.
Damn straight. But yeah,
Out on the police.
as a little aside. That's yeah, stuff like that. I think we should do a full episode on something like that because that stuff is interesting.
We could do a fill up on some of these potentially. I don't know how much I'll be contributing because I don't know how much I'll actually do the research. I have like I would not be opposed to doing an episode on, and I could just offer my opinion on the things
Yeah,
without doing a lot of
I can
research because I'm genuinely not comfortable doing a ton of research on like Goetia and stuff like that.
okay.
But look, we definitely do an episode on it.
There's a
I'll just like
YouTuber that I watch.
I'll just like say the Lord's Prayer the whole time. You'll just hear me in the background going, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
I just
Come, thy will be done."
I find it interesting because you could read about a lot of this stuff in a book called Demonology by King James the First. You know the
Yeah, that does interest me. Is that people who was like the head of the Anglican Church wrote a book about demonology.
right. The reason
Fascinating.
and you might find this interesting in the Catholic Church, I believe, which might give you more ammunition to make fun of the Catholics.
I don't need more, Nick.
They're priests that perform exorcisms.
Yeah, exorcist is a lesser like level of like friar or something like that, isn't it? Or a priest.
Something like that.
It's a specific occupation in the church.
But they go into in-depth research about this stuff, and they research how to combat it and stuff, and that's why. And I think Demonology is one of the books that they have them read, right? So
Yeah, potentially. I would be surprised if they had them read demonology, considering that demonology is not written by a Catholic. Uh, I believe King James. I know King James is a Protestant. I mean, the KJV
they
Bible
also
is
have one
King
of the
James.
most quote unquote most dangerous grimoires in the Vatican, like locked away.
Allegedly, yeah.
The Red Dragon, I think is what it's called, grimoire. It literally
I have no idea.
details how to summon the devil. So they have that locked away. They probably changed it to avoid anyone actually like attempting to do it as well.
It's like the anarchist cookbook, right? The
Yeah.
CIA or the FBI, whatever, got a hold of the original copy, and now when you try to make it, you make thermite and you burn your hands off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
What are we running on runtime?
We've done 43 minutes on this
That
part.
really? Oh, on this part. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
the
So we've
other
done
I
like
have
an
to
hour and
edit
a
the
half
other
at
one.
least. Like, yeah.
Yeah, probably
We've done a
about.
while.
Yeah. Now we're just kind of
My
going off
thing
on
here
tangents,
is
but we could.
yeah. My big thing. I'm trying to find where it says this, but um, I'm looking through my book right now.
The good book.
The good book, yes sir. It's a basically it says like I don't necessarily believe in like exorcists as you said
Yeah.
because in the Gospels Christ says that him with true faith can cast out demons, but I will say that that does not necessarily mean, in my opinion, that like you just need to have faith to cast out a demon because he says that after the disciples failed to cast out a demon, right? And he says you do not. He essentially it alludes that you don't have true faith, but he also says at the end he's like, but this kind does not come out except by prayer and fasting.
Right.
Meaning there could be some sense of ritual involved with casting out certain classes of demon or certain types of demons.
That is the thing that they detail, I think, in the study that I'd be interested to talk to someone who is an exorcist. Um. And like look into this because I'm curious what they have them study for all of that because they do have prayers and stuff that is specific to like performing an exorcism.
Dude, you could probably like go down to St. Mary's
Oh, probably. I'm
and
sure
just
there's someone I could talk to.
ask the priest. Like you're a baptized Catholic,
Yeah,
right?
I'm
Yeah, you could go ask the
I'm
priest.
confirmed that.
They'd try and exercise me for being freaking Protestant, but they try and do an exorcism on me.
Well, Jimmy,
You know,
what I
it's
gotta
funny.
do is...
I think you dislike the Catholics more than the Catholics dislike you.
No, absolutely not. Actually, no. I don't think so. I've
No?
met a lot of like, I don't know about the Catholic Church's official stance, but I've known a lot of Catholics that are very, very vehemently against Protestants and see me as someone who's going to hell. Same thing with Orthodox.
I have to look that up. But
Not necessarily just because I'm a Protestant, but I'm a Calvinist.
Yeah.
And a lot of Catholics and Orthodox see Calvinists specifically as heretics or heterodox. Whereas, like,
Buggers.
they'll say like a Methodist or something is like someone who's in the faith but not of the true church. They don't like Calvinists skew so far away from what they believe in like terms of like original sin and predestination and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
total depravity that they a lot of them view us as like
Well,
not Christians.
here's my secret, Connor. I don't believe in predestination or any of that like
I'm gonna kill you,
stuff.
and it's been predestined.
So
No, and it's not predestined, it's premeditated.
That's fair.
all right. Well, on that note, I guess we'll wrap this up because I think we've kind of
Yeah,
run out of
we
stuff
haven't talked a ton about tulpas, but tulpas is a big topic.
that is a
I
big
mean,
topic. That might even need a part 2. But generally, like it's
what you should take away from this is that tulpas, you're basically summoning demons. Don't do it.
yeah. Or what you could take away from it is that you are manifesting shit that you could lose control of.
I want to
Or
manifest $1 million.
or you should take away from it that you're schizophrenic and should seek
Yeah.
professional help.
And
If you start exhibiting the signs that some people do, where they say that they let the tulpa take control of their body and they black out during it, you should seek psychiatric help because you
yes,
likely have multiple personalities.
yes,
Genuinely, like
reality shifting might be
completely,
occurring,
completely
and that
serious
is
note, like a lot of these things I read about the tulpas and stuff, it really just seems like people have multiple personality disorder and they don't know how to diagnose it and they don't know
yeah,
what it is. And they think that they're manifesting a tulpa, but they're really just disassociating and becoming a complete different person. Which has the fact
disassociating,
that like
reality
they're
shifting,
like they'll have an allergy and their tulpa won't have it.
yeah. So
Yeah.
we're
So
still
either
not
stop
real.
summoning demons or get psychiatric help. It's one or the other.
Yeah. Like you
You
very
know?
well may be so schizophrenic that you never even actually heard this podcast, and we're not real. So,
I don't know.
I know I'm not real.
I don't know that I am real, and I don't know that Nick's real. And
I
we
don't
don't
know that
that.
any of you are real. So
Have we ever met Nick?
I've never met Nick.
We are real because we both heard the same gunshots. And actually, as I didn't bring it up, but like a minute or two after you said that, I did hear more, and those are gunshots, not fireworks.
We're the hood, we're the
Well,
hood,
that's
we're the hood.
really awesome because
Oh,
that
you're
came from my neighborhood. So
Oh, did it?
yeah.
Oh, that's yikes. You want to go out? You
No,
want to get
I'm
away from the
good.
house for a bit? You want to get away from the house for a bit, brother? Come like 5 minutes away over here.
Well, you'll hear us on our next episode, and maybe one less member of the podcast group because they may be shot outside their house, gangster style.
Oh,
Yeah.
likely too, because I live 5 minutes from Nick.
Mhm.
Well, it's
right,
just
let's
a
wrap this
solo
thing up.
Brad podcast. All right.
Let's wrap this thing up.
Yeah,
It's been
thank
a
you for joining
joy.
us on
It's
Auditory
been a
Hallucinations.
joy talking about crazy shit again. We will hear from us again soon about whatever your other crazy ass topic. Enjoy
Yeah,
yourself.
It might
Have a
be
good
more
night.
normal next week.
see
Who
us next
knows?
week. Catch us on Patreon if we have one by then. Who knows? We're not greatly organized, but
Yeah.
we're doing better now.
I'm
But,
locked in a closet for 10 hours at a time editing these, and I've not made enough headway, and they might
I'm
whip
locked
me
in a
again.
wine warehouse.
So
I wish I was editing. I'm locked in a wine warehouse lifting boxes that are 45 pounds.
oh well.
Yeah. Oh well.